In this video lesson, we are going to look at explore perpendicular lines. So lines that meet at right angle that look like this, okay? And look at the properties of perpendicular lines, okay? Particularly looking at their gradients, okay? This is a video made by White Rose Maths. I don't have any affiliation to them, so this is just my personal recording for my use, okay? But yeah, they are obviously the people that obviously run this um, program, yeah, and obviously run this site. So yeah, any questions, please do obviously ask them and check with them. Get ready, okay? So this is our starter. This is question number 1. What is the gradient of each line? So remember, straight line graphs are in the form y is equal to mx plus c, where m is your gradient, okay, so the coefficient of x, the number in front of the x, and c is your y-intercept, okay, so where it crosses the y-intercept. So we are here just focusing on the value of m, okay, our gradient. Okay, so y equals 4x, the gradient is 4, so the number in front of the x, the coefficient of x, remember, y equals a third x plus 4, so the gradient of this one is going to be 1/3, or 1/3, or 0.3 reoccurring. Okay, finally, y equals minus 2x, the gradient of this one, guys, is minus 2. Okay, well done, yeah, if you got any of those. Okay, question number 2, part A. Work out 6 times 4. Well, that's 24. Part B, 6 times minus 4 makes minus 24. Remember your positive and negatives. Okay, a positive times a positive makes a positive times a negative makes a negative times a negative makes a positive, and a negative times a positive makes a negative. Okay, part C, 6 times a half is 3. Part D, 6 times minus a third is minus 2. Okay, again, well done, yeah, if you got all them, or if you got any of those. Okay, give yourself, yeah, a mark per part. Question 3, work out 1 divided by 4, so that's 1/4, which is 0.25. Again, I'm doing this here pretty quickly. Check it using the bus stop method. Okay, part B, minus 1 divided by 4 makes minus 0.25. Okay, or I can write it as minus 1/4. Minus 1 divided by minus 4 makes positive 1/4, which is 0.25. And finally, okay, being careful here, part D, minus 1 divided by a third. Well, that's same as doing minus 1 multiplied by the reciprocal, so 3/1, okay, which is just going to be 3, so minus 1 times 3 is minus 3. Okay, again, that was obviously a bit challenging, but hopefully it makes sense. Okay, again, for part A, part B, and part C, check using the bus stop method. Okay, I think they will also accept fractions. Okay, so 1/4, okay, minus 1/4, then that'll obviously be minus 1/4. That'll obviously be minus 1 of minus 4, which is plus 1/4 or plus 1/4. Okay, but you should know 1/4 as a decimal is 0.25, and if you don't, then again, please obviously check out my fraction decimal and percentage conversion videos. Okay, look at that in more depth. Okay, but otherwise, yeah, your best bet is to use the bus stop method to work each of them out. Okay, for part D, we are dividing fractions, so remember the KFC method that I always bang on about in my dividing fraction videos. Keep, flip, change, or keep, change, flip. Okay, answer for this or for these. So 4 1/3 minus 2, 24 minus 24, 3 minus 2, 1/4 minus 1/4, 1/4 and minus 3. Okay, again, they'll also accept your decimalized version, 0.25 minus 0.25, 0.25 and minus 3. Okay, so again, if you put decimal, that's also fine. Okay, let's learn. Okay, so perpendicular lines meet at right angles. Okay, so yeah, they meet at 90 degrees. Okay, so remember, yeah, that is the symbol for 90 degrees. Okay, as you'll see in some angle questions, or you might see some exam papers that involve, yeah, either angles in parallel lines or circle theorem questions. Okay, this is a right angle, so it's 90 degrees. Okay, so we've got line A and line B. Okay, now we want to work out the gradient of line A. So remember what I said, if you're given a picture, only if you're given a picture or diagram, think of my acronym. For every one across, how many up or down do you go? So for every one across here, we go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So the gradient of line A must be 4, okay? It's 4 over 1, which is just 4, because anything over 1 is just itself. So 4 over 1, 4 divided by 1 is 4. So the gradient of line A is 4. Okay, and that'll be important in a second as to why I'm actually doing that. Okay, you'll see why I'm doing that. So 4 and 1. Okay, gradient is change in y over change in x, or delta x over delta y, or you might hear it in schools as rise over run. Okay, these all mean the exact same thing. So it's how much you go up or down in divided by how much you are going across. Okay, or in other words, if you're given a diagram, okay, for every 1 unit I move along, okay, to the right, okay, or to the left, how many up or down do I move, okay? Just 4. Okay, line B. So this time, okay, I'm going to go for this point here, okay? So what I'm going to do this time is, because that's not as obvious, okay, I'm going to pick this point here. Okay, so I'm going up 1, and then I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, okay? Or you could say positive 4 and minus 1. It doesn't really matter which one you do it. So, remember what I said, rise over run. So the change in y here is minus 1 over the change in x. It's going to be 4, so it's minus a quarter. Okay, and I want you to think here as I'm doing this lesson, okay, what's different about these two numbers that I've just circled here, okay, and what do you think makes them perpendicular? So have that thought in mind as we do this video lesson, okay, and I'll mention it as we go along, okay, but you might already know, yeah, the distinction between how to go from 4 to minus a quarter. But just hold that thought for a moment as we work it out, okay? So we've got minus 2 and 8. So again, that'll be minus 2 over 8, which is minus a quarter, okay? So I picked this one here. You're also welcome to pick that one there, okay? So yeah, okay? So minus a quarter. Okay, 4 and minus a quarter. Is there a connection? Well, I want to say yes, okay? So for perpendicular lines, and this is only for perpendicular lines, the gradients are negative reciprocals of one another. Okay, so if you got that, well done. And what I mean by that is, I've got the number 4. Remember, 4 can be written as 4 over 1. Now, reciprocal means that I flip it upside down, so turn it upside down, so it becomes a quarter, and I'm going to negate it, so it becomes minus a quarter. So the negative reciprocal of 4 is minus 1 over 4. Okay, if it's a fraction, let's say like 2/5, then we go to minus 5/2 or 5 over 2. Okay, and the other important factor that also links to this is the gradients must multiply to make minus 1. So check, does 4 times minus a quarter make 1? Well, yes, it does, okay, because it makes minus 4 quarters. Okay, so minus 4 quarters or minus 4/4, which is minus 1. Conversely here, similarly here, 2/5 times minus 5/2, so I'm multiplying fractions. I multiply top by top, bottom by bottom. 2 times minus 5 is minus 10, over 5 times 2 is 10, so we have minus 10/10 or minus 10 over 10, okay, which is minus 1. Okay, so that's the key property of perpendicular lines, that they are negative reciprocals of one another. Okay, so take note of that, okay? So again, if you're unsure, think of 4 as 4 over 1, okay? And if I multiply 4 over 1 by minus a quarter, I get 4 times minus 1 is minus 4, and 1 times 4 is 4, so I get minus 4 fourths or minus 4 quarters, which is minus 1. Okay, well done, yeah, if you spotted that. So if two lines are perpendicular, so yeah, just to summarize, the product of their gradients is minus 1. So product means to multiply. Okay, so again, if it was 3, it would go to minus a third. If it was 10, it would go to minus a tenth. Okay, so it's minus 1 over that number. If it's currently minus 6, for example, okay, then they go to positive 1 over 6, okay? Because only one can be positive and then the other one has to be negative, okay? Because obviously, because a positive times a negative makes a negative, okay? And that's the other part that we looked in our starter as well, that a positive times a negative has to make a negative as our sign, okay? So yeah, okay, the reciprocal of 7 goes to 1/7, okay? But we put on a minus sign at the front. If it's positive, okay, if it starts off negative, if it's like negative 6 over 5 or 6/5, then again I'm going to flip it and then negate it. So it becomes positive 5/6, because it becomes minus minus 5/6, which becomes a positive 5/6, okay? Because you are negating a negative. If you negate a negative, then it becomes a positive, okay? So again, remember that as well. Okay, a fifth times that is minus 1. Similarly for this, okay? So brilliant, okay? Good work, guys. Next up, okay, for each number, what do you need to multiply by to get to minus 1? Okay, so for 3, we times it by minus a third. So it's the negative reciprocal, remember. For 1/4, we're going to flip it, and then we are going to negate it. So it becomes minus 4 over 1, or minus 4, because anything over 1 is just itself. Here, we're going to have minus 5/4, so it's the reciprocal. So we flip it, turn it upside down, and then we change the sign. And then finally, minus 4/5. Okay, be careful this time. This becomes positive 5/4. Okay, so remember, 1 is positive, 1 is negative, 1 is negative, 1 is positive. Okay, it has to always multiply to make minus 1. Okay, so you have to have that change in sign. Okay, remember, a positive times a negative makes a negative, okay, and a negative times a positive makes a negative, okay? So they can't ever both be negative and they can't ever both be positive, okay? Otherwise, you'd get positive 1 or just 1, okay, rather than minus 1 or negative 1, okay? So remember, yeah, your rules of negative numbers. And again, I've got loads of videos revising that topic, so obviously you have a free to obviously check it out on my TikTok, my Instagram, my Facebook, or my YouTube, okay? So yeah, okay, well done, yeah, if you got any of those. So when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you always get the answer 1. Now that is actually true, but let's obviously test it out. 3 times a third, okay, because you get 3/3, which is 1. 1/4 times 4 is 1. 4/5 times 5/4 is 1, okay? Again, if you're unsure, yeah, let's just work it out, okay? Multiplying fractions, you multiply top by top. So 4 times 5 makes 20, over 5 times 4 makes 20. Okay, remember that multiplication here is what we call commutative. So 4 times 5 is same as doing 5 times 4. We get 20 over 20. Anything over itself is just 1. So remember that. Okay, so yeah. And remember as well that any number can be written as itself over 1. So number 4 can be written as 4 over 1. Okay, so yeah, if you're ever multiplying, yeah, a fraction by a whole number, let's say, sorry, I'm going a bit off tangent, excuse the pun, 3/5 times 8, let's say, I can write 8 as 8 over 1, because anything over 1 is just itself, okay? Dividing by 1 doesn't change your answer, it makes it the same, okay? So you do top by top, bottom by bottom. So you get 24 over 5, or 24/5, okay? But again, sorry, I'm going a bit off tangent, excuse the pun again. But yeah, okay, so yeah, multiply by an integer, write that integer over 1, okay, or that whole number over 1 if you're unsure. Next up, okay, so this has now been done, okay, so 3, okay, times a third, So minus a third, sorry, yeah, well done. Okay, so start by reciprocating it first and then change the sign. Okay, so reciprocate the number or fraction by turning it upside down. Okay, 4/5. Okay, becomes minus 5/4 or 5/4. And then minus 4/5 goes to positive 5/4. Okay, so again, well done yeah, if you got any of those. So good work, guys, and thank you for sticking with me so far. So yeah, negative reciprocal, okay? The reciprocal of 3 is 1/3 or a third. The negative reciprocal of 3 is minus a third, okay, or minus 1/3. Okay, so reciprocal, remember, just means 1 over that number. So the reciprocal of n is 1/n. Now there is obviously one caveat. The only number that hasn't got a reciprocal, we should know, is 0. Okay, so obviously, yeah, so a line here that has a gradient of 0 doesn't have, yeah, perpendicular to it, okay, because I can't divide by 0. Okay, because 1/0 obviously doesn't exist. Sorry about my cough. Yeah, so the reciprocal makes it 1/, as long as n doesn't equal 0, okay? And if it's a fraction, again, you just turn it upside down. Okay, the reciprocal of minus 2/3 is minus 3/2. The negative reciprocal of minus 2/3 is positive 3/2. Okay, so remember, change in sign and then you flip it. Okay, so turn it upside down. So if it's a over b, it goes to minus b over a. Okay, so you flip it. Okay, and then you change the sign. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay. Next up, okay, a bit more trickier now. Write down the equation of a line perpendicular to y equals 7 minus 2x. So step 1, let's rewrite it in the form y equals mx plus c, so it's easier to see. So we got y is equal to minus 2x plus 7. Okay, now the gradient of this line is the coefficient of x, remember, so the number in front of the x. So that'll be minus 2. So the gradient of this line is minus 2. Now, a perpendicular line, okay, has a negative reciprocal of minus 2. So the perpendicular gradient, I'll call it PM for short, okay, will be minus 1/2, which makes positive 1/2 or positive a half, or just a half. Okay, start be the gradient of my new line. So it'd be, for example, y is equal to a half x plus 3. Okay, so that'll be a line that is perpendicular. So as long as it's in the format y is equal to a half x, okay, plus or minus a, where a can be any real number, okay, it can be any number, okay, it can even actually be 7, okay, but yeah, okay, so in this format, then it's perpendicular, okay. So remember, it's the negative reciprocal. If you're unsure, check. Does it multiply to make minus 1? So does a half times minus 2, does it make minus 1? Well, yes, it does, okay, because it makes minus 2 halves, okay, or 2/2, or minus 2 halves, which is minus 1, or negative 1. So yes, my answer is correct, okay. A can even be 0, okay, so yeah, you can just have y equals a half x, okay. Now, as we move on to A-level maths and obviously beyond, it might not always be written in this format. So yeah, just bear that in mind, okay? So it might be written in like a different format. So you might see it written like, for example, if I times everything by 2, I have 2y equals x plus 3. If I subtract x on both sides, okay, you might see me also write it as 2y minus x equals 3, or even minus 3 equals 0, okay. So yeah, but that's obviously once we get beyond GCSE, because obviously when we start looking at A levels here, it's not always in the format as mx plus c. Although I tried to tell all my students here to put everything in the format as mx plus c, just to avoid like confusion. But bear in mind, that this can be rewritten here in many different ways. Okay, as long as when you rearrange it, y equals half x plus something, or y equals half x, okay, plus or minus something, or y equals x over 2, whatever, as long as the gradient part is positive a half, then you're all good, okay? But yeah, just obviously bear that in mind that you might see it, yeah, written in like slightly different formats, okay? But it still means the exact same thing, okay? You might even see me right here as y equals 3 plus a half x, okay? Or 3 plus x over 2, or x halves, or whatever it is, okay? So yeah, so just bear that in mind, yeah, okay? So you might see me, yeah, when we start doing A-level and beyond, it might not always be written in the form y equals mx plus c, okay? It just depends on what the exam board wants, because yeah, for OCR A-level, they usually write it in the form ax plus by equals c, and even AQH yeah, as well, okay? EdXon, not as often, okay? So they usually have it written like this in OCR papers for A-levels, okay? Okay, but yeah, I just thought I'd let you know, yeah, in case and yeah, someone's watching it, yeah, in the future and they're doing A-level maths, okay? But yeah, I hope that makes sense. So again, okay, so the gradient of this, so answer for this, the gradient of the line is -2. The gradient of any line perpendicular to this will be the negative reciprocal of -2, yep. So remember, reciprocal makes it 1 over, so it's 1 over -2, and we negate it, the two negatives make a positive, so it becomes positive 1 over 2, or positive a half, or positive 1/2, okay, or even positive 0.5, okay. So yeah. So they've actually gone for y equals half x plus 4. That's fine. There are obviously infinite many answers for this problem as long as the coefficient of x is being times by a half, okay, or a half x, okay. Right, next part says, what if the equation had been 3y equals 7 minus 2x? Well, here, I have to actually rearrange it to make y equals, so I'm actually going to divide everything by 3 first, so we get y is equal to 7 over 3, or 7/3, minus 2x over 3, or 2/3 x. Okay, so the gradient this time would be, okay, I'll call it M1, would be minus 2/3, or minus 2 over 3. The negative reciprocal of that would actually be, so I'll call it, yeah, PM2, let's say, okay, would be positive 3 over 2, or positive 3/2. So the perpendicular to this line, if you're wondering, would be in the format y is equal to 3 over 2x, okay, plus a number, okay, plus 8, I'm going to go for, okay, or 1.5x, or 1.5x. Okay, again, this can obviously be rearranged in a similar format, times everything by 2, so it might be 2y is equal to 3x plus 16. Okay, so yeah, just bear that in mind. Okay, they all mean the exact same thing. So yeah, but remember, yeah, that you have to rearrange it to make it in the form y is equal to mx plus c first. Okay, so you can read out, yeah, the coefficient of x. In this case, the number in front of the x is, yeah, minus 2/3, or minus 2 over 3. Okay, the negative reciprocal of that is a positive 3 over 2, or positive 3/2. Okay, there we go. So divide everything by 3 first. Okay, they got that. Okay, so the gradient line is minus 2/3. Okay, spot on. The gradient of any line perpendicular to this will be the negative reciprocal of minus 2/3. Yep, so that'll be minus 3 over 2. The two minuses make a plus, hence give me 3 over 2. So they've gone for that. Minus 7, that's fine. Okay, and that concludes today's video on perpendicular lines. Okay, I hope it's been useful. I hope it makes sense. The key takeaway, just to ram that point home, is that perpendicular lines are lines that meet at right angle, and also their gradients must multiply to make -1, or in other words, okay, they are negative reciprocals of one another in terms of their gradients. Okay, so for example, if the gradient is A, okay, the negative reciprocal makes it -1 over A, and the product means multiply. Okay, the product of the two gradients must equal -1. If it doesn't, then they are not perpendicular. Okay, I hope that's been useful. Thank you for watching. If you have found it useful, guys, please yeah, follow us on this account, subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on my Insta, my Facebook, okay, and drop any comments if you've got any topic requests for me to cover over the Christmas period and the New Year period, okay, as we approach here the final, pretty much here the final, just under 6 months now until the paper 1 exam for GCSE maths or A-level maths. So yeah, let me know and I'll be open to suggestions. The plan, I think for me, after New Year is to start doing past paper walkthroughs on my YouTube, okay? But yeah, I'll hopefully start doing some lives again, potentially on TikTok, if I can get up and running again, okay? We'll do some past exam papers. But yeah, if you've got any topic requests, let me know. Comment below, follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff, repost, share in your WhatsApp groups, okay? And I'll see you inside the next video, okay? Bye for now.